Hi and welcome to this tutorial. Today we will sketch this roe deer together. I took this picture in Italy and let's mix some natural looking colors for this deer. So today's tutorial is going to be about how to create a realistic fur texture. So the fur on the deer is very peculiar because it's short. So I'm going to show you some techniques on how to paint it realistically. And also you will learn how to mix some earthy colors for the skin, so for the fur of the deer. And these kind of colors can be really helpful for other types of mammals and animals in general. So let's get started. As a first thing, I want to mix 2 to 3 colors. So first I will start with a color that may sound a little bit weird to you, and it's going to be a blue color. Why do you think we need a blue color here? You may say, I don't see any blue on the deer. But if I look at the picture, I can see that some highlights on the face of the deer are a little bit bluish. And personally, one of my top hacks is that if you see any earthy tones on your references, oftentimes they go with those kind of cold highlights, these cold kind of reflections. And cold colors and warm colors look very harmonious together. And this is why I even like to exaggerate this a little bit to create a more interesting kind of effect. So that may not make sense to you now, but stick with me. So this is the blue I came up with. This is ultramarine with water. And I will also mix another color straight ahead. It's going to be raw sienna. So raw sienna is a kind of orangey yellowish color. This is how it looks like. So we're just going to start with these 2 pure colors, and then we're going to create some other colors in some later. Step number 1, I'm going to take the blue color I've just mixed, and I'm going to apply it to this right side of the deer, except for the nose. So the nose is going to remain yellow. I'm also going to apply this color here and a little bit to the horns, not everywhere, but a little bit. And also some to this right portion of the head. I'm also going to apply this color under the neck and a little bit to this back of the deer. So I see the deer kind of showing through the trees. So I'm going to apply it to this whole back of the deer. And you see I'm using just my big brush. This is number 8. Just loading it with this color and going ahead and painting with it. I'm also going to apply it to some of these legs. So see, I've kind of created these blue highlights that again may look a little bit weird now, but you'll see what it's going to look like after. So while this is still wet, I'm switching to my yellow, and I'm going to apply this yellow to everything else, basically to everything. To the nose, to the face, to the chest. And you see it's going to blend a little bit with that initial blue that we've applied. So some here. It may seem a little bit, it is actually a little bit too bright for what we need. But in watercolor, the cool thing is that you can always darken things. So if I want this to be darker, I can always make it darker. But on the other hand, if I want to lighten something up, it's harder. So just because watercolor is not a covering material like gouache or acrylics, it's a translucent material. So it means that we cannot just use white paint. We don't have a white paint in watercolor to go and bring the highlights or the whites back again. So our white in watercolor is our paper. This is why, by the way, I left the eye completely untouched, because I want those white highlights on the eye. And instead of painting them with white, you see I just left them completely white. And then of course I will paint the eye, but I will leave the highlights untouched while painting. This is the trick of keeping the white. So right now our deer looks a little bit funny. It has two colors, this yellow and this blue color. So let's mix some other colors, some of these natural looking browns. So I'm going to start with some burnt sienna, actually with some sepia. This is the color I'm going to use for the roe deer. Definitely not this one. So let me find it here. I think I need to refill my palette. By the way, the colors I'm using are from Sennelier, and this is my travel sketching palette. This is what I bring on my trips, and this is my palette I usually use in my studio. So this is how sepia looks like. It's a dark brown color, and I think it's going to be perfect for us. I'm going to use this sepia, and I'm going to just use pure sepia probably, some of this light brown color. And now everything is already dry, so I'm painting in a quite of a hot environment. I'm in the south of Italy, so it's summer here. The weather is super hot, so my paper is already dry. Yours can be still wet depending on your environment, so you need maybe a little bit more time to let it dry, or you can use your hair dryer to speed up the process, but I'm going to go ahead and start painting. So just to let you know that if yours is still wet, it's nothing is wrong with you. You just need to wait a little bit more until it gets wet. It's important until it gets dry, sorry. So it's important for the paper to be dry before you start doing what I'm doing. So right now I'm applying this, and you see, by the way, my paper is still a little bit wet in some areas, but it's not of a big deal. So it's kind of in one of these in-between stages when it's almost dry, but not completely, but it's gonna be fine. So you see, I'm painting, I'm kind of darkening some of the areas of the face already. And to make them look more seamless on the face, so to make the transitions on the face more seamless, I will go there, wash my brush, dry it with my paper towel, and you see I'm kind of smoothing those edges so that this brown color I'm introducing blends nicely with everything else. So this technique here I'm using is super helpful for anything nature related. So for any kind of natural subjects, you need to know this technique. So practice it. It's going to be incredibly helpful. I'm also going to add some of these darker details here and to the ear. And I'm going to mix more of this color. By the way, probably an even darker version of it. So to make a color darker, I just add more pigment and less water. There you go. And I'm going to keep using this color. For example, I want to apply it to this lower portion of the roe deer, so under the muzzle. And a little bit here. And some to this left side of the feet. So you see, even though I had yellow there, it's not a big deal. I can paint on top of it and it becomes darker. See that? And then I'm going to start creating that fur texture on the deer already. See, I'm using these short strokes. So I'm going to go on top of that yellow and instantly create this kind of a fur texture there. I'm also going to do the same thing here. So the fur on the animals can be a little bit intimidating, but if you use this technique, so these short strokes, you see you're instantly creating this fur effect. I'm also going to do this on this left side and blend it all together with this initial color I've applied. So see, it still looks a little bit weird, but we're going to make it look realistic. So here I'm going to apply this brown color kind of uniformly and add these tiny strokes to imitate the fur again. And I'm going to do the same thing on this right portion of the legs. And also a little bit here on this lower side. So see, the yellow is still showing through, but we're getting kind of a more realistic effect going on here. So this, by the way, is the exact technique I'm showing in the EBEX tutorial from my tutorial book called Capture the Natural World in Watercolor, published by Page Street Publishing. In that book, you will find almost 40, so 39 step-by-step tutorials on how to paint different natural subjects with watercolor, from animals, botanicals, mushrooms, and more with watercolor. So some techniques, most of the techniques I'm using here are the same techniques we're using inside the tutorial book, and they will allow you again to paint a bunch of different subjects. So let's continue. Right now, I want to start adding the darkest tones to this roe deer, because right now all of these, so we've applied lights and midtones. Let's apply some shadows. So for the shadow, I want to create this kind of a dark blue color, because this is the color I see on these darkest details on the roe deer. So to obtain it, I'm going to mix ultramarine with Payne's gray, so got this dark blue color, and I'm going to apply it to the nose. So right now I'm using the exact same brush, applying it to the nose, and you see I'm using the very thin kind of short strokes, and I'm still, even by doing this, I continue to create that fur texture. So see, I'm gonna add this dark blue around the nose, and it's going to help me to create the texture. I'm also going to apply this dark blue color in the nostrils. And then if you feel like this is too much of a texture, I'm going to show you a trick on how you can make it look integrated and seamless with everything else. So I'm also going to add this darker texture here. So I see that this eyebrow of the roe deer is darker. See, always applying these tiny strokes. If you struggle to do this, you probably have too much water on your brush and not a lot of pigment. So adjust your color mix and make sure it has enough pigment and not a lot of water. So, and your brush should be almost dry. So keep adding some of these details on the head. This looks kind of dark right now, but again, I'm going to show you the trick on how to make it look better. And I'm going to add those tiny lines to the face. And I'm going to add this same color to the back of the roe deer. So here you see I'm using the whole body of my brush and for the top area, and then I'm going to integrate it with the lower area using the same kind of strokes. There you go. And I'm also going to dilute this color with a little bit of water. So just added some water to it. And I'm going to use this color for this whole left side of the deer and for this part of the face here. So something like this here. And actually add some yellow here. So right now what I'm doing is I'm going to unite all of this face and use that trick I told you about. So how to unite the surface. So right now you see it looks super detached. This dark is too dark. So how to integrate it with the rest of the face. I'm going to take my brush, wash it with water, dry it with my paper towel, and then just go on top with my water. And you see I'm kind of blending this color I've just applied into the rest of the surface. And here as well. I'm just not touching the tip of the nose because I want it to be really light. So I'm gonna finish somewhere here. I still want to see these kind of glowing yellow highlights on the lower portion of the face of the deer, and also a little bit on the jawline because I feel it looks really cool. So I want to create this kind of almost glowing effect. And while this is still wet, I can take a little bit more of this raw sienna, mix it with some burnt sienna. I got this orange color, and I'm going to apply it to some areas of the face of the deer, for example here under the eye. So I want to darken these areas but still make them look vibrant. And I'm also going to apply this vibrant color to the horns, so especially to the left side of the horns. So our glowing effect is going to be even more obvious. I'm going to apply it a little bit under the nose and probably to this whole left side as well. Also a little bit here. So you see with this light mix, again, I'm going to also apply to this blue because I want to calm it down a little bit. So see, the blue gets completely absorbed, so it disappears completely because we're introducing these new colors, but we still get the nuances of that blue color we initially applied. So you see, now it's completely disappearing, but the interest is still there. We still have this contrast, kind of nice contrast between the between warm colors and cold colors. Now I'm going to switch to burnt sienna. Oh, so sorry, to sepia again. So sepia, just sepia with water. And I'm going to apply it to some areas of the ears. So I would say this tutorial is a little bit more of an advanced one. So if you're feeling like you're struggling with the techniques still and you don't, you're not getting the effects or the results you're getting on your side, then I suggest you to get to doing some of my easier tutorials first on my page and get back to this tutorial later. And again, super helpful tool is to have the book, because inside the book you have all the step-by-step processes, and everything I do there is explained with both with text and with images. So I created a step-by-step kind of guided experience for you so that you can follow the exact steps I'm doing, and you see the process pictures for each step. So you see now I'm darkening this area under the face again, and just blending, integrating that dark color with the rest of the surface again. And I'm still going to go there, use the tip of my brush, you see, and continue creating that texture, that fur texture. So see, by adding this shadow, I visually separated the neck from the body. I'm also going to add this shadow here and kind of keep integrating this shadow into the neck. So for animals, you have different approaches. If you want a more realistic kind of effect, what I suggest is using techniques like I'm doing here. So it's a layering technique. So instead of painting everything in one step, you see we've added one color, then we added more colors on top, and it usually creates kind of a more refined and interesting look, and it adds a richer texture to your paintings. So you see I've added some of this sepia on the body. Now I'm going to add some of the same sepia on the face. So I'm going around the eye and kind of creating these tiny lines now. So what I'm doing now is I'm creating the fur texture on the body of our roe deer. So I'm going to stop here for now. some here. I'm going to outline this kind of separation between the horns and the head with this darker color, and even start to use it to make the outline of the horns a little bit more visible. You see, not in all areas, but only somewhere. This is how I usually do the outlines if I want them. And now what I want to do is I actually want to add a background to this roe deer. So I want this kind of a green background. So I'm going to use a big brush. This is no, actually I'm going to use the same brush I use right now. It's going to be easier. And I'm going to mix color for the background. That is going to be yellow plus green. So for yellow, I use primary yellow. And for green, I use sap green, or you can use any other basic green color. And I want to have more yellow than green in this mix. So this is kind of a vibrant yellow I've created. And I'm going to apply it everywhere around the deer. So I used to be terrified of backgrounds when I was actually a botanical artist. My background is that I started as a botanical artist. And I was super obsessed about the realism, you know, and things like this, the details, but I had no idea how to add backgrounds to my subjects, so I used to leave them completely white. And when I started to sketch more, so when I started to focus on sketching full time, this is where I liberated myself from this fear of backgrounds, basically, and my paintings started to look much more interesting and much more expressive, I think much more original than they were before, because before it was just like a subject on a white background. And now when I started to add these more expressive colored backgrounds, I just feel like it gives so much to the artwork, and it really liberated me from that perfectionism trap. So now you see, when I start to apply a background, you see I'm super relaxed. So I don't care how is it going to turn out. You see, I love adding these loose kind of endings to my backgrounds. And basically what I like with backgrounds is kind of added around the subject and make this subject interact with others. For example, I see here, I created this drawing of the mushrooms. So I know I want the mushrooms here. So I'm going to kind of frame this deer so that it has its own, you see, space here, but it's not invading the mushrooms. So you see, in order to do this, I like to make these kind of colorful strokes and swirls just to give this, just to frame him, just to separate him from the rest. So instead of just doing like one line or something that would be super boring and super not organic, this is allowing me to create this kind of organic background. Then while I was talking, explaining you all of this, the yellow color got already dry, almost, in some areas. And this is not exactly what I wanted, actually, because I want to keep painting the background using the wet in wet technique, but my yellow got dry. So what to do? I'm going to show you how I will go about it. So I'm going to mix green with some raw sienna, the one we used for the deer, and I'm going to grab this color and apply it to some areas around the deer. So here, see, for example, here the color is still wet, so I'm getting this blooming and swirls I initially wanted to go with. And here on the top, I bet I won't have them. So let me see. Yes, see here, what happens is the stroke remains exactly in place. This is because the yellow there got already dry. So let's see how I can work around it and what I can invent. So with backgrounds, it's always about kind of going with the flow. So maybe you have an idea of what you want to do there, but it's not going to turn out exactly the same way you envisioned. So usually I just embrace the unpredictability, and I don't have this set vision in my mind. So you see, I've started to apply the darker yellow on top, And then I want something even darker there. So I'm going to mix this blue and add it to my existing mix. This blue I'm adding is ultramarine. And I want to add this darker color in between the horns of the roe deer, because I see that there's, on my reference, there is this darker space there. And I feel it will help my roe deer stand out. So I want to add this darker color there. And since I don't want it to be just in between the ears, that will be funny, I'm still going to add it to some of this area here, but I'm going to darken it a little bit. Again, all of this I'm doing here. It's not that you should have to do the same thing. I'm just basically inventing this background kind of as I go. This is usually what I do now. Again, I used to be so stressed out about these things. And my first backgrounds, I was super stiff. It looked not horrible, but it was not looking like I imagined them to look, and it was very frustrating for me. And then once I embraced this, just going with the flow thing, it liberated me so much. And now I just go and don't hesitate anymore. Like, I know what kind of colors I want to use. I know the techniques I'm using, all of these like swirl things. I just know I will be using them, so I'm not staring at my sheet of paper and thinking what to do next. So I know what I'm going to do, but the exact outcome is always a surprise. So this is the cool thing. And yeah, for example, now if I want some of this dark color away, I'm washing my brush, drying it with my paper towel, and kind of making it lighter. So you can always adjust things slightly. Maybe I'm going to add it to this whole left side as well. So something like this I think looks nice. So lately I love my sketches to look kind of expressive, kind of not exactly as I see on the reference pictures. I think following reference pictures became really boring for me. So now when I sketch, I love my sketches to be something of my own, not just a replication of the reality. Sometimes it works a little bit less, but this is my approach. So I decided to also darken this portion of the roe deer, of the background. So there you go. And then I'm going to calm down this area here a little bit because I feel like it is disturbing a little bit. Okay, and then this portion here looks a little bit funny, so let's also add some dark color to this area as well. So maybe, I'm just guessing, I'm just going to try to do some of these like dots and spots to, I'm thinking about maybe tree leaves or something. The important thing about the backgrounds is that it should not confuse how the subject itself is looking. So it should, I think, work with the subject, not against it. If it starts to take too much from the subject, usually for me it's not a good sign. So I'm always trying to keep that balance between the subject and the background. So I want them to look like they belong together. And by the way, this is where I'm going to add a tree later. So I'm not going to paint it in this tutorial, but I'm leaving this white on purpose because I'm going to add a tree there. So this is how we've added a background. I think it looks quite fun, and I will be able to adjust it if I want to later. For now, I think I'm going to leave it as it.